2 days after Mary Pinchot Meyer was shot dead along a public towpath in Chief of Georgetown. Counterintelligence for the CIA was on his knees at the door to her picture studio, opening by Professional Gear. He was searching for her diary, and Mary's sister was too. So was it Mary's brother-in-law, who 10 years after the best-known newspaper editor in the United States. 9 months ago. After that morning, the brother-in-law was a witness at a murder trial. The prosecutor asked him, under oath, what he discovered at Mary's workshop. He said, a wallet, keys, a pocketbook, pencil, cosmetics. He did not say the journal. He did not speak of the individual at the door. He never said anything about it. 30 years later, in a memoir, he revealed anything at all. This is the account of how a woman could not speak because people opted to conceal it. Welcome to the top. Rewind. If you like the sort of stories that are not told in the text, subscribe books. It helps us to keep dig. Mary Pinchot Meyer completed a painted on the morning of October 12, 1964. She placed a little fan in front of a canvas to allow the paint to dry, and pulled. Wearing a blue Angora sweater because air had become frigid. Then she went out the door of her studio for her customary walk at lunch hour along the Chesapeake and towpath. Ohio Canal. Georgetown. I had done that for years. It was not work out. It was the way a mother who had a lost son sought to walk away the loss. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The picture she had done that morning was known as half-light. You can still see through, if you like. Smithsonian American Art Museum, 1976. The painting is a 4-color circle, painted on round canvas. She was 43 years old. 44 years old, 2 days from birthday, and most of what has been starts with the because her since men she'd slept with, but she's much more than that. Her painting is not addendum to the men she knew, and I am not the only one who thinks so. The Smithsonian concurs. Previous. She'd been those men and the picture. Somebody else. The wife of the Marine Corps, Lieutenant Cordmeyer, who, on Guam, returned home a war hero and joined the CIA. They had 3 S. They were residents of McLean, Virginia, next door to the family who will come to the White House in the December of '56. Middle-aged son, Michael, who is 9, was struck by a car near the family residence, where he died. 2 years after that, Mary got divorced from Cord. She walked in Georgetown. She began to paint again in the renovated studio garage. Sister, Ben, and brother-in-law, Tony, owned around the corner from Bradlee's. Her own home. I guess maybe losing put a wedge between her and wife. Some things we never really pretty heal from. We only need to power through it. Mary pushed by painting outside the agony. It gave her a timetable. And no, that was not just that routine. Going the same route for lunch. The seeds of this one that I'm the reference to planted in 1937. School dance at Choate School. Mary was 16 and went there with a boy, but Jack Kennedy, who was 3 years older than her, sought to cut. She turned him over. Down, but 24 years later, in October of 1988, She came back to him in 1961. She went to him for a few of years. The White House logbooks had notes of her going in and out of the home from October, November 1961, November 63. Most of those visits occurred when Jackie was driving. The Kennedys bought the house next to the Myers in McLean in the mid-1950s. Jackie was really Mary's friend, but that did not stop Kennedy writing a letter on White House stationery October 1963. Month before he was assassinated in Dallas. I never wrote the letter. His secretary, Evelyn Lincoln, retained it and it came to auction in June of 2016, where it was sold for just over $89,000. He told Mary to quit in the letter. Suburbia. He told her that it would be unwise and insane, that she might detest it, but he'd adore it nonetheless. He spoke to her. She should respond him more lovingly than that which she has given him all years, and I just signed the letter. It is the sole love letter from a incumbent president to his lover that has ever been verified. Disposed of by public auction, dated. All other affair Kennedy has is from people's testimony. This letter is an invitation. Admission of the 35th President of the himself United States. Would he have had not mailed it if Lee Harvey Oswald assassinate him? On September 27, 1964, the Warren Commission issued its report to the American people and said Oswald acted alone. According to there was no actual conspiracy of them. Mary Meyer read it and she said, "Buddy, she didn't think the conclusions." Apparently, she thought it was a falsehood. Had been Kennedy's lover for 2 years and had her personal thoughts regarding somebody in Washington. Could have wanted him gone, and she kept a journal. 15 days following the Warren report was released on October 12, 1964, she was dead on a towpath. If you have made it this far, hit the like button. It's telling us that this sort of narrative is valuable. Telling, and it helps the channel to keep going. At 12:30 in the afternoon of the mechanic Henry Wiggins' day, she died. Had at Key Bridges So station been dispatched along Canal Road with his companion, Bill Branch, to get a stopped Rambler abandoned on road. He was in the side of the road across from the canal. Suddenly he heard a woman on the towpath scream, "Help me, someone! Somebody assist me! Me!" And then there was a gunshot and then another one. Henry crossed the canal, rode to the wall with towpath in view, and looked down. He noticed a black man looking over the corpse of a white woman. He observed the man pull a dark thing out of hand and slipped it into his jacket pocket. The man looked up to Wiggins for a few of seconds, and then turned and went softly over to the trees on the other side. Wiggins testified the individual he saw was roughly 185 pounds, about 5'8", and was wearing a light beige zipped-up coat. No clue in the coat. Evidence of a battle. No blood. No ripping. 45 minutes later, the police arrested a man, Ray Crump Jr., at edge of the canal a half-mile away. Crump is 5'3" 1/2. His weight was 130 pounds. His clothing were soaked and he had scratches on his hand. He informed the cops. Guy was fishing on the towpath and fell in the canal, and a fishing rod was back home. Mary Meyer had fired twice, once in the back of the head in front of her right ear, once close to the heart. Both shots were near range and correct. Nothing was removed. And no sexual assault. Theirs is another thing I find quite that's interesting. The individual whom the police seized was 5 shorter and 50 pounds leaner than the eyewitness actually suspect. Illustrated, but he was somehow accused. Charged with first-degree murder and without a pretrial hearing. The speed is of trying to solve that problem was quicker than normal. It was the velocity of struggling to reach a decision that may or may not have been true. But the rabbit hole goes further than this. At the morgue they identified Mary's corpse. Late afternoon. Ben Bradlee. He was her brother-in-law and the Newsweek Washington bureau chief his wife. Mary's sister was Tony. That night the Bradleys had a global phone call from Tokyo. And was the caller Mary's nearest sculptor, Truett. Mate said there was a diary. Years before, Mary had requested her to see if anything ever happened to her. The diary would be placed under the hands of James J. Angleton. Angleton was chief of the counterintelligence at CIA. He was Cord Meyer's best friend at the agency, godfather to Mary's sons and regular visitor at the Bradleys' Georgetown dinner parties. He was already at the Bradleys' house when the call from Tokyo came in. Next morning, Bradlee and his wife walked around the corner of their house to the Mary's studio. They had no key to the studio door, but Bradlee had taken tools to cut the padlock. They are trained on data up to October 2023. Had arrived, the door had already been worked on. Angleton was down on his knees, picking locks with specialized equipment. His inside the agency. The moniker was the locksmith. He was known as a man who could find his way into any townhouse. They didn't that morning locate the diary. 2 days later, Tony returned to the studio and found it herself. It was a little notebook, primarily crammed with color notes and paint swatches, and short concepts for her work. Around 10 pages spoke of a romance with a lover, unnamed. Those Tony and Ben read pages. They knew the lover. They gave Angleton the diary and requested him to tear it down. The only thing they say they know about the diaries has witnessed. But if it was only paint swatches, the locksmith would have been on his knees attempting to get in it before Bradlee and his wife. There now was still a prosecution to be run. And the presence of the diary may have changed everything. In July 1965, Ray Crump Jr. was prosecuted for Mary Meyer murder, jailed, awaiting trial for 9 months. Magistrate. Brother of Tommy is Howard Corcoran. Corcoran, a longtime friend of Lyndon's Johnson. Corcoran governed in the beginning of the trial that revealed Mary Meyer's personal life. Cannot be included in the court record. Anything about her affair, anything at all. On her ex-husband's work for the CIA. Anything on James Angleton, not a single. It was permitted. When I look at why I find the judge entered this ruling kind of weird. Wooden details about Mary's life gives us a glimpse of the depths of the case on its own. Ben Bradlee was the First witness for the prosecution. The chief prosecutor, Alfred Friendly. Huntley, when asked under oath what he had found at the workshop of his sister-in-law. A pocketbook, keys, pencils, makeup, wallet. He did not mention the diary. He did not talk of Angleton at the entrance. So the prosecution had not known about the diary. The defense was unaware of the diary. The jury never hears any of this. Crump's defense attorney, a woman named Dovey Roundtree. She's a black lady trying a capital case in 1965 in. For each black laborer, Washington has already judged him guilty. 3 years ago, she had been the first black member of the all-white before District Women's Bar Association of Columbia. The effort to get her admitted has cast a vote. She'd taken Crump's case for $1 and she completely wrecked the prosecution. The sole eyewitness, Wiggins, could not identify Crump at the trial. The prosecution had not murder weapon. No forensics was there. Evidence connecting Crump to Mary's body. They had no reason. Crump was 50 pounds. 5 shorter and lighter than the man. In the original, Wiggins had explained. Statement from cops. The jury found him not guilty. On July 29, 1965. A black lawyer won death penalty lawsuit in Washington in 1965 without having knowing the dead woman had been the diary the president's lover kept about it, and the CIA had taken the diary from her studio before the cops ever discover it. Whatever happened in that courtroom, it must not be. With bewildered justice. For 11 years the public knew none of this. Then was another turn. Angleton did not destroy the diary, as he had promised Bradlee. And years thereafter Tony found out when Tony asked him straight blank what he had done with it. He admitted that he had not messed things up. Bradlee's wife made him do it back. He handed it back and she torched it with a companion to bear witness to oneself. 3 Washington people had a gathering around a deceased woman's diary, and that the public should not know what it had in it. They torched it themselves. James, February 1976. Husband to Truett and N. Truett, ex-vice president of the Washington Post, interviewed with the National Enquirer. He told them of love affair. He talked about the diary. He said them about Angleton and Bradlee in the studio. In 1976, Bradlee was running the Washington Post. The paper had won its Watergate Pulitzer 3 years earlier. With him behind the wheel, he was on his vacation when the story in the Enquirer came out. With his new wife, Sally Quinn, he passed orders for the Post to disregard it. Bradlee became known for bringing Washington's secrets to the light, yet was so determined to keep this one in the dark. A senior editor at the Harry Rosenfeld on the Post said, "Record, we will not deal more compassionately than we treat ourselves." Others. The story ran in the Post. Bradlee rejected it. Angleton denied it, and they denied him another 19 years. Both the prosecutor and defense lawyer went on record as saying the knowledge of the diaries would have changed over time. The whole trial. Neiman told a interviewer in 1991 that knowing regarding the journal and the affair might altered all. Roundtree wrote in her book in 2009 that what Bradlee had hidden, terribly disturbed her then in 1995, in his biography, A Good. Bradlee admitted to everything. Life. The break-in, the journal, the destruction. That he did not speak the truth. On the stand. By the time Mary Meyer had been deceased, confessed it. For 31 years. James Angleton was gone. Cord Meyer was alive, but long, long ago. Departed the CIA. The judge had been dead. Most of the persons that may have Bradlee were asked a follow-up inquiry. Working for him or dead. He picked his own moment well. And here's the part that bugs me. The journal is missing. We've don't have a one sentence in Mary Pinchot Meyer's handwriting on his own. Her affair with the man she loved who was killed in Dallas 11 months ago. She had been shot in Georgetown, approximately her husband's employment, regarding the Warren report she had read and objected to it. The last 2 weeks of her life. What is what others said about it. Tony in the interviews, Bradlee in 1995. Truett 1976. Angleton on martinis at retirement. Parties telling reporters whatever he wanted to tell them that night. What the? Her voice we don't have. The price of what they did had nothing to whether the diary included a conspirac. The price she paid was her voice on the paper the week before to her. Lost it on the towpath, and she never got it back. The case is formally unsettled after the July acquittal. In 1965, D.C. police took Ray Crump to the Virginia border and told him never to leave. Step into the district again. He'd had 6 children were living there. He continued turbulent criminal life and was a long and never convicted of another murder. James. The CIA boss was Jesus Angleton. Counterintelligence until 1974 when he was pushed out for other reasons. Ben Bradlee, The Washington Post. Watergate, supervised the coverage that toppled a president and won his 1973 Pulitzer Prize-winning paper Public Service and was interred in 2014. Praised as a guardian of the public's right to know. In his memoir of 1995, he eventually shared much of the truth about what he had done to his sister-in-law. Studios in 1998. The journalist Nina Burley published the first serious biography of the woman whose journal that they'd torched. Trump 2025. Administration declassified 80,000 pages of declassified Kennedy assassination papers. None of those files mention Mary Meyer Pinchot. The painting is still in Smithsonian. It's half-light, a circle of 4 colors. You can go and see any day when the museum is open. The log is ember. Until then.